What do you think is going to happen Monday? Because if we continue to hear the requests to delay things, we do get mired in politics, because while it is very complicated, we also know that Democrats, whether Christine Ford's situation exists or not, we know they want to do everything possible, and it makes sense, to delay this thing past the midterms. So this request does get mired in really sticky politics.
It really does. And if you saw last night, Senator Corker, who's retiring, Senator Flake, two Republicans, they came out with statements after Dr. Ford came out with her request through her lawyers, and they said they would urge her to still testify on Monday. We still have to hear from Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Senator Susan Collins of Maine. They will decide whether this Monday hearing gets postponed or not, because they are crucial to this nomination getting passed. So if they come out today and say, hey, we need a few more days, or there should be an FBI investigation, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will almost certainly have to react to that.
And we do have to remind our audience, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, without an investigation, without due process, both called upon Al Franken to step down last year. Noelle, what's at stake here for Kavanaugh? What's your take?
Well, this is kind of a catch-22 for both parties. Whether or not these allegations, we're not sitting here as a panel trying to, go through her testimony to see is she telling the truth, who's telling the truth here. What the problem of it is the timing. The timing of this is absolutely despicable. They sat on this. They knew about this. They should have brought it forward. And now, where push comes to shove, we're pushing the victim, the supposed victim, forward into a rush, testimony. She's now saying that she wants, or her counsel is saying she wants the FBI investigation, which we're not even sure if this is an FBI really moment to get into the he said, she said. When we were back in the green room, we were talking, how do you do an FBI investigation before you're proceeding with this vote? What is the FBI supposed to do? How many crazy teenagers, that are now adults and working with families and jobs, are they supposed to go back and say, do you remember where you were X night and doing what? I mean, really, what is the FBI investigation? Is that what they're holding up for to proceed with this vote? And if she does testify, the Me Too movement, one of the things that the Me Too movement did do on a positive note was give victims the courage. People are applauding women coming forward saying, you're victorious for being, courageous to go out and challenge these guys. So it's almost setting it back a notch. Go and testify. If you're not comfortable doing it in an open setting with cameras everywhere, that's your prerogative. You have the absolute right to, do it behind closed doors. But they're offering you a chance to be heard. And one of the biggest things when you looked at Bill Cosby and you looked at other victims is they didn't get the dadgum chance to be heard, and we're offering her. Everyone's saying, we want to hear you.
Bob, you have worked on he said, she said cases. This is so complicated because we don't know that much. There isn't an investigation. So on one hand, some people are saying this is crazy teens doing things that, teenagers do. And on the other hand, maybe it is a case of sexual assault. So how complicated is it for a he said, she said case for someone like Dr. Ford to come forward and tell her story in a public setting like this? Walk us through how this works.
Stephanie, as a prosecutor who's put those cases together, they happen all the time. I hate this term.
Sadly.
He said, she said. The fact of the matter is you can convict in a criminal court beyond a reasonable doubt to 12 jurors where you can't compel the testimony of the defendant based upon a jury just assessing the credibility of the victim themselves.
But it's not a criminal investigation.
Exactly. So there's even less of a standard there. There isn't proof beyond the reasonable doubt needed. There isn't a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Kavanaugh has to testify. There isn't a presumption of innocence. What I'm saying is if you can do it in a criminal prosecution where all the rules are slanted against the prosecutor, you certainly can do it in this kind of hearing. And in fact, the courts tell you what to look for when you have a singular witness who's testifying. You look at what's their interest in the outcome of the case. I'm reading right from the jury charge in New Jersey, and it's very similar elsewhere. What's their ability to know? What's their motive? What was their candor like in their demeanor on the stand? Were they evasive or not evasive? And what I find funny here with this woman is, look, she's taking a polygraph. That's an aggressive action to say, I'm telling the truth.
She put someone else in the room who would not be her ally.
Stephanie, as a prosecutor, that would have been the biggest thing for me to say. I believe in the credibility credibility of the allegation. I'm not saying it's true. The fact that she could have just said it was just me and him and no one else was there. She put his friend in the room who is likely not to be a positive witness. That speaks truth to me as far as somebody that's going forward and saying, I really did. And by the way, I want a full investigation. Why don't you? When Senator Grassley says that he won't even call or compel supposedly the third party that was in the room there, won't do any more due diligence, is an
But he doesn't
insult.
want a full investigation because then we get all tangled in the midterms. So here's a woman who, is a victim, and now her situation is being tangled in the timing of an election.
I just want to say one last point, Steffi. She's being victimized a second time by the process. Yesterday, we had the president declassify information in a current investigation in the name of transparency. But you don't want to have any kind of transparency with somebody who's going to be on the Supreme Court of the United States by doing a full investigation? I call that hypocrisy.
Well, welcome to the age of hypocrisy. Michael, some Democratic aides are floating the idea that some people, Democrats, should boycott the hearing on Monday. Is that a good strategic move?
I don't know what the hearing on Monday is going to be, so that's entirely premature. I think this idea that it sets back the Me Too movement if you don't testify at the exact specifications of the 11 men on the panel who don't want your allegations to be true.
What does it have to, 11 men? So what?
If you testify before 11 people who, I think the gender actually will play a big role in the minds of voters. And I think the fact that there are 4 Democrats, all 4 Democratic women, will mean something. And I think that if you look at the Anita Hill hearings, all these men castigating Anita Hill did not play well and hurt them in the minds of voters. And by the way, this idea that she is getting, I didn't interrupt you.
Hold on.
You are, first of all, it does not set back the Me Too movement to make her testify at the exact specification of her opponents does not set back the Me Too movement. Second of all, the idea that you're allowing her to be heard. Anita Hill was heard, but she was railroaded. What we're trying to do is put together a process that will get at the truth and not be a show trial that just allows Brett Kavanaugh to get confirmed no matter what.
Bob Costa, you tweeted that this is a politically fragile moment for the GOP. Specifically why? I mean, I think of Orrin Hatch yesterday when he did say, I know him very well, he's a good guy, she must be mixed up. And that, for me, was certainly a moment where I went, mixed up? There's lots of guys who could be good golfers or nice guys and you've had a beer with, but it certainly doesn't mean that Dr. Ford is mixed up. And Orrin Hatch doesn't have any facts to back that up.
And you think back to Senator Hatch in 1991, he was president for the Anita Hill hearings for Justice Thomas. So was Senator Chuck Grassley, now chairman of the Judiciary Committee. And it was a fragile moment for the Republicans back in 1991, led to the Year of the Woman in 1992 when many women were elected to the U.S. Congress. Now we're in a totally different era, the Me Too era, and what passed as okay for Republicans politically in 1991. Many Republicans told me yesterday at the Capitol they fear they could be too aggressive here, make mistakes, and if they're trying to move too quickly, they could pay a price with voters.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.